When you bought your Jeep, did it look like this? And now it looks like this? And do you sound like this when you're driving it? Go Jeep! Well, this week we're gonna talk just about how much those larger off-road tires actually weigh, and maybe we'll understand a little bit more why it affects the performance so much. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Casey, and this week we're gonna talk a little bit about just how much off-road tires actually weigh. So if you've been watching some of my previous videos, you might know that I'm planning to buy a new Jeep. I haven't said exactly what that is, as I haven't completely made up my mind yet. One of the big factors is that the Eco Diesel still isn't available in Canada, and I don't have any specific pricing yet, so it's kind of making it hard to decide exactly what I'm planning to do. Anyways, I've been looking at all the different mods that I would be doing to a new Jeep, and one of my goals with a new Jeep is going to be trying to keep it as light as I possibly can. And a big factor in reducing weight is tires. Now, obviously, I want big off-road tires because I need them, and well, they're awesome. Now, it's easy to calculate things like static weight that is in the Jeep, but one thing that I think isn't talked about enough is the tires. It's easy to say a tire is gonna weigh more as it gets bigger, but there are other factors here. I started doing some research into just what tires weigh, and as well, trying to figure out just the equivalent of the unsprung weight to static weight when you have larger and heavier tires. Now, unsprung weight is weight that is not carried by the suspension. If it's a tire, it's rotating. So that's going to change the dynamics of how we calculate just how much that weighs, and its effect on things like acceleration, braking, handling, and general abuse or wear and tear on the drive terrain. So as I started to investigate into different tire sizes, and I started to notice that there is quite a bit of a difference just between different tire manufacturers. Whether it's a 35-inch, a 37-inch, a 40-inch, and there's a few sizes in between. There's also 12.5-inch width, 13.5-inch width. All of these things make a pretty big difference in figuring out how much impact the weight of that tire is gonna have on your Jeep. So I've read different things about, well, a tire, its weight, you times it by 10 and that's how much weight it is equivalent to static weight if you were carrying it in your Jeep, or you times it by 2.5. It's not that simple. So what I did was I went out and tried to figure out, who cares a lot about the weight of tires? People that drag race, people that have race cars. And I tried to figure out, well, how are they calculating weight reduction when they go from a factory tire or they compare different race or performance tires against each other, because their goal is to reduce that tire and rim combo to be as low as possible, because that's effectively the same as reducing weight in the race car. So I came across an interesting spreadsheet which helped me kind of figure things out, and I'll show you some of the results as we go through this video today. And I'm kind of interested to see what your opinion is, because some of the results are quite staggering. So let's start off the video today by taking a look at some of the more popular or commonly seen tires. We'll look at the different sizes, and then we'll take a look at their actual weight. And then we're gonna plug them into the calculator and see just how much of an impact that would be on your Jeep. So the first thing that I noticed was that different manufacturer tires have a significant difference in the weight of the actual tire depending on which one you go with. Now, I'm not gonna get into which tire is the best tire or which tire is going to least likely have a flat. That is a completely different conversation, and there are a lot of different factors that go into that. But we're gonna look just at the weight of the tires themselves, because you may not be aware when you're selecting tires just how much of a difference each tire can weigh. So looking at some 35 by 12.5-inch tires, which seems to be the standard step up from a factory tire, whether you have a Sahara, a Sport, or Rubicon, 35s are usually the starting point. So Cooper Tire makes the Evolution MT in a 35-inch, and that is only 64 pounds. Now that is only a little bit of a step up from a factory Rubicon tire, which is about 33 inches, and the factory Rubicon on the new JLs is about 61 pounds. So you're only coming up about 3 pounds by going to that Cooper Evolution MT tire. But I also looked at Firestone Destination MT2s, BF Goodrich KM3s, the Nitto Trail Grapplers, and the Toyo Open Country MTs. Those are all very popular tires. And as soon as we get away from the Cooper Evolution, we do see quite a bump up in how much the tire weighs, ranging from anywhere between 74 to 78 pounds. So we've got about a 4 to a 4.5 pound difference per tire just looking at different manufacturers in the 35 by 12.5 inch range. So when we step up to a 37 inch tire, we start to see that gap widen between tire manufacturers. So something like a Milestar Patagonia, which I keep seeing all over the place, it seems, comes in at just 71 pounds per tire. So that is a bit of a step up from the factory Rubicon tire at 61 pounds. But at the same time, there are much heavier 37 inch tires. So if we stay in the 12.5 inch width, the heaviest tire that I came across was actually the Nitto Trail Grappler, which is 84.8 pounds per tire. So that is quite a bit of a difference between the Milestar Patagonias and the Nitto Trail Grapplers. When we start to go to the actual calculator between tire weight and what the equivalent is in static weight, we're gonna see that 13 pounds per tire makes quite a difference. Now, if you're looking to get into something a little more beefy, a wider tire, a 37 by 13.5, and you get that nice wide profile, wide stance look, the weights are gonna go up even more. So something like the Cooper Discovery STD Pros in a 37 by 13.5 is gonna be around 81 pounds now. If you go with the Toyo Open Country MTs in a 37 by 13.5, yeah, they're 94 pounds a tire. That's 94 pounds each tire. Now remember, we started at only 61 pounds a tire with the tires that come on the Rubicon, which are a 285/70. So moving along, as we get into a larger tire, Milestar makes the Patagonia in a 38 by 13.5. BF Goodrich makes the new KM3 in a 39 by 13.5. But let's get to the 40s. So in a 40 by 13.5 inch tire, the Milestar Patagonias were the lighter ones that I used in my spreadsheet, and they're 88 pounds a tire. So a little bit less than the 37 inch by 13.5 inch Toyo Open Country MTs, but still 88 pounds, that's 27 pounds over your factory tire weight. And if you're wondering what those Toyo Open Country MTs weigh in a 40 by 13.5, they weigh 104 pounds each. That is pretty significant. Now, don't forget as well, if you're also upgrading your factory wheels, the factory Rubicon wheels are only 21 pounds per wheel. If you're gonna be moving up to a beadlock or an aftermarket wheel by any of the major brands out there, it is also going to increase the weight of your overall wheel. And those will vary depending on which wheel manufacturer you go with and wheel style. Beadlocks can be a bit heavier. The wheels that I had a quick look at generally range between 31 and 35 pounds, unless you go with the DOT approved Hutchinson beadlocks, and they're 55 pounds. I mean, that's adding 34 pounds over your factory wheel, plus whatever tire increase you're going with. So keep that in mind when you're selecting wheels, that you're also adding weight as well. So that's a quick look at some of the more popular tire manufacturers and brands to give you guys an idea that picking tire size isn't the only factor in how much it's gonna weigh. There is quite a bit of difference between brands themselves. So when I start to put some of these tire weights into this tire weight comparison calculator, this is where the differences really started to be impactful. Essentially what we're doing is we're taking the increase in tire weight and we're calculating just what that would be the equivalent to if we added static weight to our Jeeps. If we were to keep the factory tires and we added 500, 1,000, 2,000 more pounds, that's essentially what your Jeep would feel like with these larger, heavier tires. Now, for the purpose of these calculations, I didn't change out the wheels. I wanted to go tire by tire comparison to just see. So I used the factory wheel weight for these comparisons. But in the description down below, I will put a link to this spreadsheet that you can have a look at and grab off of my Google Docs. And you can go through and run some of the calculations yourself. As well, you can see all the information I collected if you want to have a more in-depth look. So this is where it really starts to get surprising. The static weight equivalent to the increase in tire weight that you're adding to your Jeep. Now remember, we started with the Cooper Evolution MTs. They were only 3 pounds more than the stock Rubicon 33-inch-ish tires. But when we start to put that through our calculator, that is the equivalent of 389 pounds of static weight added to the Jeep. if we didn't change anything on our Jeep, it would be the equivalent of adding 389 pounds to it and carrying that around. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's, you know, a couple large adults. And that number starts to really increase as we increase the tire diameter and the overall weight of it. Because the larger the tire, a lot of the weight is out in the lugs, that pushes it further and further out, and then starts to multiply just how much static weight that would be equivalent to. So if we look at the Nitto trail grapplers in the 35 by 12.5 inch, which were our heavier tires in that size, which were 79.9 pounds, well, that is equivalent to 1,096 pounds of static weight. I don't know about you, but carrying around an additional 1,000 pounds in your Jeep definitely starts to make a difference. As we start to move up in tire size, we go to the 37 by 12 inch tire. Those Nitto trail grapplers, that 84.8 pounds is the equivalent of carrying around 1,640 pounds in your Jeep if you had factory tires. So it really starts to increase as we increase in tire size. Now, if you add an additional inch and make that a 13.5 inch wide tire, you've got that much more weight out at the edge of your tire, and it really starts to make a difference at this point. So if we look at the Toyo Open Country MTs, which weigh 94 pounds a tire at 37 by 13.5 inches, that is the equivalent of 2,076 pounds of static weight in your Jeep. Yeah, 2,000 additional pounds in your Jeep, that is really gonna start to impact your acceleration, braking, handling, and just how your Jeep handles and performs off-road. Let's look at our biggest tire. The Toyo Open Country MTs in the 40 by 13.5 inch weigh 104 pounds of tire. That is the heaviest tire. And if we run that through our calculator, that comes out to 3,193 pounds of equivalent static weight. So how much of a difference do you think adding 3,000 pounds to your Jeep would make? Yeah, it's probably quite substantial. So things like re-gearing can help reduce and minimize some of this impact. This is why I strongly recommend adding larger brakes if you're gonna go with larger tires to help with the increased weight. And it's why there's so much stress put on your driveline or your drivetrain when you add larger tires. Not only do they have more leverage because they're bigger, there's just more weight spinning. And when it gets spinning, it doesn't wanna stop. And when it's stopped, it doesn't want to accelerate. So I'd like to hear some of you guys' thoughts on just how I came up with these calculations. And it's not very easy to calculate just how much static weight a tire is equivalent to. But if it's anything close to the numbers that this calculator is estimating, it is a real eye-opener, and it's definitely going to make me think as I start to plan out a new Jeep build. Thanks so much for watching this week's video, guys. Don't forget, new uploads every week. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.